Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, this weekend, a woman and her fiance are getting married by the creek that turned their lives upside down 1 year ago. And attorneys for former President Trump meet with federal prosecutors regarding a looming indictment. We'll have more from the meeting in the special counsel's office.
Plus, heat turning potentially dangerous out there as we head through the end of this week. The very latest coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Tonight, leading into tomorrow morning, makes 1 year since the creeks rose, much was lost, and recovery felt very distant. And as one local farmer reflects on that grim day, she says the creek she loved so much washed much of what she loved away. WYMT's Olivia Calfee explains how far she has come and her determination to make something special of the weekend of July 28th, 2023.
I find God in the creeks, in the dirt, in the hills. That's where I find my peace.
For the past several years, Missy Young has lived on 476, surrounded by her large garden, the hills of Appalachia, and Troublesome Creek.
We flood twice a year on Troublesome religiously, every spring, every fall.
But on July 28th, 2022, the creek she loved so much rose higher than ever before.
It was just devastation. My neighbor's home was laying in what was my melon patch.
And the water that has always brought her peace uprooted everything around her in a matter of minutes.
Honestly, I felt like everything I love had betrayed me. Like I'm sitting here on this porch surrounded by all this trash that used to be, you know, in our home, and there's nowhere I can run to. I can't go to my garden, I can't go to the creek, I can't get up in the hills, I'm stuck.
But instead of allowing the hard days she faced to still her joy, Missy Young says she and her fiance Donnie made a decision to turn that bad day into something beautiful.
There's a lot of grief surrounded around that day. And it's so heavy. And we, after 10 years, we decided that we were going to set a date. We're going to get married.
1 year and 1 day later, on July 29th, she will carry flowers from her garden down the aisle, along that troublesome creek she still loves.
I don't want us to be afraid of the water, you know? And I'm not going to let it take that from me, you know? I had nowhere to run to find my peace last year, but I do now.
And Missy is confident Saturday is the start of always remembering that day in a positive way.
Just to be there with him and do this is just on this property here, in this place, beside this creek. It's a beautiful thing, man.
In Perry County, Olivia Calfee, WYMT Mountain News.
Great story. Missy says every year on the weekend of the flood anniversary, they will always get to celebrate another year together. And the end of July felt right after all that they've gone through together this year. We'll have much more on the flood anniversary tonight at 6.
We're in a first alert weather day out there today, tomorrow, and even into parts of the weekend because not of storms, but because of heat. A heat advisory in place for basically everybody as we head through tonight. Really into the day tomorrow, late tomorrow morning through tomorrow night, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. tomorrow. Already hot out there today, and that's with some filtered sunshine working on through and a few more clouds working in. 86 the current reading from our studios here in Hazard, 91 Prestonsburg, 92 Monticello, 93 in Somerset. Everybody else in the mid to upper 80s, feeling like 104 in Monticello, 103 in Somerset, 104 up in Lexington, 108 in Louisville, 100 in Moorhead, 106 in Ashland. And heat indices mostly in the middle 90s elsewhere. Irvin's at 95, Prestonsburg at 96. So that heat is getting close to dangerous territory. Mostly a clean sweep in the mountains right now, but don't have to look far. Just outside of the region, on the other side of Rowan County and parts of Fleming County and further to the north, watching a few of those downpours beginning to go up, and even some thunder and lightning with those, and watching a bigger cluster of storms now working toward downtown Cincinnati. We'll see if those can try to make it toward the mountains a little bit later on. A few more storms there into portions of southeast Ohio. So we will continue to watch that as they make progress our way. Next 12 hours, showers could be with us, and we're falling only into the mid-70s overnight. Steve, a breakdown of when heat indices could get near 100 again in a few minutes.
All right, Evan, thanks. Prosecutors argued for a sentence of life without the possibility of parole for accused school shooter Ethan Crumbley this morning in Oakland County, Michigan. Crumbley, who was 15 at the time of the shooting back in 2021, pleaded guilty to terrorism and first-degree murder charges in October. He injured 7 students and killed 4. Crumbley's parents are also facing charges of involuntary manslaughter associated with their son's actions. One person died from a firearm-related injury every 11 minutes in the United States last year, or more than 48,000 people total. A drop in firearm homicides helped drive that number down from 2021, but the total did not decrease as much as it should have. The reason is because gun-related suicides are up to a new record high. For the first time, the rate of gun suicides among black adolescents 10 to 19 years old surpassed that of white kids. We're learning more about yesterday's moment of concern for Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. McConnell froze during a news conference yesterday. McConnell has not explained why he froze up, but an aide claims the lawmaker was feeling lightheaded. Sources say he has suffered at least 3 falls this year. Today, McConnell and Senator Chuck Schumer met with the Italian Prime Minister at the White House. Special Counsel Jack Smith appears to be on the verge of getting a second indictment against former President Donald Trump. This time, the investigation centers around the president's actions following the 2020 presidential election. CBS's Skylar Henry has more from Washington.
Former President Donald Trump could be facing another indictment from Special Counsel Jack Smith's investigation, this time for his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Trump posted on social media that his lawyers, quote, had a very productive meeting with the DOJ this morning, explaining in detail that I did nothing wrong. Trump was informed by a letter last week that he is the target of a Department of Justice investigation. The letter indicated investigators are looking into 3 possible criminal acts, including conspiracy to commit an offense or defraud the U.S., obstruction of an official proceeding, and a civil rights era law which makes it a crime to threaten or intimidate anyone in the free exercise or enjoyment of a right or privilege. Special Counsel Jack Smith has already secured 1 indictment on former President Trump. That one was unveiled in June and had to do with Trump's handling of classified material at his Florida home.
We have prosecutors that are evil people. These are evil people, deranged. I call him deranged, just one particular man. I think he's a sick person.
The former president already has a trial date scheduled for next May, right in the middle of the Republican presidential primaries.
We're going to win again, and we're going to win big.
Trump's lead over his primary competitors widened even further following the first indictment. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
President Trump said on social media that no indication was given as to when a potential indictment could be coming. President Joe Biden is unveiling his latest round of judicial nominees. It brings the number of people he's nominated for the federal bench to 180. And the Biden administration says it continues their emphasis on demographic and professional diversity. The 4 newly announced nominees could fill vacancies on 2 federal appellate courts and U.S. district courts in Minnesota and California. Anheuser-Busch says it is laying off U.S. corporate staff in the wake of the Bud Light controversy. The move affects 2% of its total workforce, or about 380 employees. Frontline workers like warehouse staff and drivers are not losing their jobs, just corporate employees. Bud Light sales are down after nearly 2 decades as the top-selling beer in the United States. The brand is getting anti-transgender backlash regarding influencer Dylan Mulvaney's promotion of the beer. Transportation Security Administration workers are getting a pay raise. Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas spoke at Reagan National Airport this morning about the raise. Officials say it's long overdue and puts TSA workers on a more even scale with other federal employees. Mayorkas also says the 20% raise, which kicked in less than a week ago, will mean the TSA can recruit and retain the right employees for the job.
It was unfair and frankly unconscionable that the more than 63,000 of these outstanding TSA public servants carried out their duties for more than 20 years while being paid less than their government counterparts. It was antithetical to our values.
Mississippi Representative Benny Thompson says although the raises are temporary at the moment, he is hopeful they will be made permanent soon through an act of Congress. Some folks here in Kentucky are gearing up for a big event across the southern border this weekend. Tax-free weekend for the state of Tennessee kicks off tomorrow. It runs through Sunday. It includes clothing that costs $100 or less. School supplies and electronics priced at $100 or less are also included, plus computers that cost $1,500 or less. Computer supplies like flash drives, printer supplies, and software are not tax-free. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, do you feel worried or stressed when thinking about your finances? An expert shares why you should consider a weekly money date to help reduce your anxiety.
And here comes more heat as we finish out the week when feels like temps could get back near 100. Coming up after this.
WYMT News app offers alerts on breaking stories as they happen, customized to the categories